Hey, how's it going? This is Professor Krspo, and this is Music Production 101. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to week 5. This week we're talking about sound design. We're going to talk about layering sounds. We're going to talk about saturation some more, and we're going to talk about OTT, distortion, all that fun stuff, everything that goes into sound design. So let's get to it. All right, guys. So we've talked about MIDI. We've talked about audio. We talked about mixing. I even showed you how to make a little loop into like a 3.5 minute long song. But now we're going to get into sound design. And what better way to get into sound design than to revisit our friend Operator. So this is a MIDI instrument that comes stock with Ableton. I probably should turn on my keyboard and stuff here. Super useful. So this is the first kind of sound design I want to kind of talk about, or is going to be this envelope here. This is going to have big effects kind of on not only how your sound works, but once we get into automation and assigning envelopes to certain things, you're really going to need to understand it. So let's just get started right away. So the attack is how fast the note comes in, or the sound comes in. So if I sit at a 1.26 seconds, see how it kind of, comes in. If I do it right away, or if I set it to 0, it's going to come in right away. So that's attack. The decay is how long after I release the note does it start to decay. And this decay is around a minute. So maybe let's talk about release first. So release is how long after I release the note does the note actually stop. So this is like, you can have a hard release, like 1 millisecond. Notice as soon as I let go, it stops. As soon as I let go of the key. Or you can have something like 15 seconds where I just tap the key and the note takes like forever to release. So that's the release. So these are the basic kind of things here. And then where's the sustain? So the sustain is going to be, if you hold the note, how loud is it? So if it's negative 22, you'll hear it. Now it's going to have like a little spike because of the attack. And then it kind of goes down after that. I can actually drop this more. Okay. So, we don't need to get too much into this, but you'll see this. You're going to keep seeing this over and over again. So just be on the lookout for that. So yeah, you just do a basic right away attack and then a little bit of release, but not too much because we don't want it to drag on. And this is an FM synth. So that's the next thing we're going to talk about. We went over this briefly, but all FM means is that every oscillator starts to take away from the other oscillator. So you're here right here when I bring this in. So we're adding sound, but you see like it starts to kind of filter it in a way, and it's just different harmonics. So if we change the harmonics, it'll filter it out differently. The cool thing about Operator too is you can actually go into the oscillator and do stuff like this. That's a cool little bass right there we just made. And that's only 2 of these oscillators. We have 4 that we can use. And each one I add, you'll notice it starts taking away or changing. Not really taking away, but the way the frequencies interact, they replace each other in a way. And that's how you get these weird kind of weird, you get some weirdness. A lot of cool sounds are going to come from FM synthesis. And Operator is one of the coolest FM synthesizers around because there's 4. It's got 4 you can work with. CERM, you only have 2, and same with Vital, which we're going to look at both of those in a little bit. You only have 2 you can work with. So this is a really cool thing that Operator offers that a lot of stuff doesn't. Okay, so we explained this area a little bit. We explained this area a little bit. Let's go over here. So one of the things we're going to be working with a lot is going to be the LFO. That stands for low frequency oscillator. So these oscillators, they are operating at frequencies that are high enough for you to hear. If they didn't operate, and that just means that the oscillator is moving so quickly that you can actually hear what's going on. LFOs are slower. So they're not really meant to make sound. They're more meant to like take a sound and then kind of like wub it around or like, sine wave it around or triangle. You can do all kinds of different things with it, but it's just meant to take a sound that's kind of already made and mangle it. Whereas these oscillators are higher frequency oscillators. These are meant for actually making sounds. So this is the LFO. You see what I'm saying? It's taking this sound and then oscillating it at a slow enough speed that you can actually hear. See, this is still pretty slow. 127, that's really slow, but you could start to see how, if you start turning up these, like an oscillator like this, how it could start to make an actual sound. So I don't really like this right now, so we're not going to use that, but I'll show you another way you can use an LFO. You don't always have to do it that way. And then there's a filter too. Just same, the basic low pass filter that I showed you guys on day or week 2. There's all sorts though that you can change it to. You can do some like weird. There's a lot you can do with these filters, but it's just a basic filter, and you're going to keep seeing that in our synths. These are just the tools that you kind of use to manipulate sounds. So we're just going to kind of go over that, and then I'll show you guys actually how to manipulate the sounds. But let's just go over the tools first, because these are going to keep coming up. LFO filter. This is the most basic stuff. There's going to be even more stuff that comes up, so that's why I'm going over this now. And then, so this is a pitch envelope. So again, we're using that same envelope thing that we talked about before, but now we're using it to affect the pitch. So if I turn the attack up on this pitch envelope, now it has like kind of a punch to it. So if you want punchy sounds, that's kind of what you're going to be looking for. Is you want to use a pitch envelope because you want the pitch to be high and then to come down. And then you're going to get that punchy. This is great for like call basses. So that's what you'll see. We'll probably use this for like a call bass. You could also turn it down. So this would be the opposite. So this means it's low and it's coming up. It's all right. But usually you're really getting that punch from the top. Sometimes you can experiment with that. It really depends on the sound though. For this sound, obviously it sounds much better using a higher pitch and then going down. And then again, same parameters. So I could tweak this this release to make the punch a little longer. Or a lot longer in that case. So that's good sometimes. Maybe you want a variation. So maybe you want, for the first couple, it sounds like, and then you hit it. You know what I'm saying? So little stuff like that goes a long way in your arrangement. Because like, remember how I said, like, you can make little changes and have a big effect. So stuff like that, it makes the sounds like stay fresh. Because like, if you keep hitting them with a, sure, that sounds really cool. Like maybe even do some like notes with it, like, something like that. It's really cool. But what's also really cool is doing that a couple times and then either duplicating the instrument and having one that's like further back. You know what I mean? Or you can automate that. And we talked about automation, but again, we're going to keep talking about these things because they're all fundamental things that we're just going to keep going over. All right, so we got our first sound. So that's like a little call bass. I think next, let's make some keys maybe. So I'm going to show you guys how you can implement these sounds. Maybe let's do that next week. I'll show you guys how to really implement the sounds. Let's just focus on making the sounds because this is a big week as far as like explaining stuff. And if I'm like making a song while explaining stuff, it might take too long. So let's go next. Let's go down here. Okay, so the next plugin I want to go over, this is actually, this is not a stock Ableton plugin, but it is free. And it's a very powerful synth, so I'd highly recommend getting it. It's called Vital. So this is Vital. So this actually has 3 oscillators, my bad. I think it's Serum that just has 2. So Vital has 3. And these are the oscillators here. So now we're getting into, this is a wavetable synth. So your first synth we looked at, operator, very simple FM synth. Now we're getting into a wavetable synth. And we can actually make a wavetable synth and FM synth very easily by using this. So we just hit FM. Do the same thing with this, FM. And I guess we would have to FM it from 1 again. Oh, no, we can't do that. 2, 3. Can we do that? 2? No? Okay. Anyway, see what I mean? Like, operator is pretty unique how it's like a 4 oscillator FM synth. There's not a lot of that out there. So you can't even do that with this. This only has 3 oscillators, and then it won't let me FM them all into each other. Or maybe it will, I just don't know how to do it. But, yeah. So let's get into this synth a little bit, because there's a lot more to this one. You have all these different wavetables, and they all create totally different sounds. And then you have a Glorglung folder. This is all stock, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, all these sounds sound really cool, like, on their own. But the cool thing about wavetable synths is all the fun stuff you can do on the back end that really starts to make it super cool. So, I went through a couple different filters, and I found the comb one actually worked the best for what I was trying to do. But again, we're making it go through this, I guess it's the sample. It's like white noise. This white noise oscillator, making sure that it's on both of these. And then we're using this comb filter. That's what I was looking for. We're using the same one on both at slightly different spots. And then I'm using the second envelope now too. And I'm sending this second envelope to the sample level and also the oscillator level here. And the way to do that, you just grab this and you can bring it to any of these things. So I just dropped it on the level, and then I dropped it on the oscillator level as well. And that's just because if you heard it before, like the white noise was kind of all over the place. So it's just a way to kind of clean it up. You just change the cuts a little bit. again, this stuff up here, this is kind of it. All the different things you can do with these filters. I mean, like the So let's get into the effects here. So right away, you guys might think this is familiar here. This is the multi-band compressor. Again, yeah. And then we have some EQ, just taking out the top end. Again, you guys remember EQ. Just cleaning it up. And then now the chorus. This is something that helps make the sound a little bit more stereo. Watch, you'll see as I turn it up. It's a lot more. But also, I can grab this and drop it here. And now I can control how much chorus we have right here with this knob here. So you can use these kind of macro knobs. It's helpful sometimes for automation and just for later on when you like maybe revisit the sound like this one. I was like, oh, I might want to change the verb up a little bit. I might want to be able to change the chorus. So these are just ways to do it without having to like go in and do it and like go into the effects. And this is the reverb, adding a little bit of reverb. Not too much. Again, you can turn up the reverb. Sounds further away. This is just an example of how you can make a key sound, not even using any of these oscillators, using the white noise and just a couple of filters. And just experiment, you know. Experiment with different filter placement, different envelopes, using, you know, dragging these envelopes onto different things. So that's how you make some like a little key sound and just a little overview of Vital. So you know your oscillators here. These are your macro knobs that you can assign, white noise, filters. And then again, when you activate the filters, I've done this so many times, make sure they're actually routing to the right thing. So you make sure they're routing to, I'm using the sample here. So let's make sure the filters are both routing to there. Really important. And then we went over to the basic effects. We're going to go over more of the effects in a second. But yeah, this is just a little overview of Vital and making these key sounds. All right, so that's the key. Let's open up Vital again. Initialize it, open it up. Let's do like a little pad now. Let's just go basic shapes. We'll start off with just a basic sine wave. Very straightforward. Let's mess with the envelope a little bit. So we're already kind of getting that paddy kind of vibe. Then maybe let's add one of these weird sound thing. But let's mess with the let's do some FM. Let's do some more FM. So we're going to turn the volume way down here. And actually, we want to do the FM from here. FM from oscillator 2. Turn up the release. A lot. We can change the unison even. No, doesn't sound good on this. Maybe the pitch. I'll turn the pitch of the oscillator that is. It's kind of cool. Bring in a new one. Let's do the crappy toilet. Have that one come in a little higher. Maybe turn the unison on. Let's do like 12 voices. And we can actually take this envelope, or actually let's use the LFO. We'll use one of the LFOs here. We'll put it on this, and we're going to turn it. Let's turn this all the way down, and we'll just turn this up. So right now it's moving like that, but we want it to be kind of longer. How about like super long? And we'll actually draw some stuff in it here. And then again, we can use these filters. Let's do like a ladder filter. And then we can use this to switch it. Let's go this way. And that's how you kind of get your like little weird. You hear that in a lot of pads. This is the meditative part of this 8-week course. Just meditating to pads. But that's the fun part, you know, adding these little filters, getting into there. And then, you know, of course, there's the whole effects area. So we got our cool little pad. Yeah, multi-brand compression, great to use. We're just using like a tiny bit of it. But all it's doing is bringing out a little bit of the subtle details. And then the chorus here is awesome. If you notice, it kind of gives it a little bit more of a stereo field. And all I'm doing is I change the spread here and the cutoff so that it's not affecting the low end at all, because we're saving the low end member for our sub bass and all that fun stuff. So when we're making pads, we're not really worried too much about the low end, especially the low end being stereo. And then we're going to do the phaser, add a little bit of phase to it. If you want to know how to freeze it like I did, all you do is you just pull the thing all the way down, pull the frequency all the way down, and it'll be frozen. And then you can affect, using the LFO, how it moves. Now it's moving with your pad. So that's really cool. So yeah, these are just the basic effects. And then remember, like with pads, I don't know if I said this before, but attack, long release with the pad. And then if you remember the synth and the bass, the fast attack, pretty fast release. So these are just kind of the rules to go by for making pads, making kind of synths like this. And we can even, I feel like turning the decay down would be kind of cool. Yeah, that's cool. Just a little bit. Just a little bit, nothing too crazy. And then again, you got to remember to route your filters. See, it sounds so much cleaner already just because I routed that. Because if you don't, then this isn't actually working. It's only working on the first oscillator. But you could tell it still made a big difference. It still like really added to the sound. And that just shows you don't need to do a lot of stuff. So yeah, so I showed you guys how to do like the key, remember? Fast attack, pretty fast release, messing with the noise. And then I showed you guys using Vital, using all the oscillators. We can even use the noise if we want. We got to turn the level way down if we use that. And then attach the level to this. So that's pretty cool. A little bit of noise. I'm telling you guys, you just mess around, try different things, and you'll be surprised with like what kind of cool results you'll get. And it's just this basic, you know, using oscillators, maybe use a little FM, you know. But yeah, I'm not doing anything too crazy, I don't think. Oh, this is another cool thing. So I showed you guys all the different, well, at least I showed you how to FM, but there's all these different options here that you can mess with each of these oscillators. This is a really cool thing about Vital. And then there's these too. There's all these different ones too. You know, you'd really hear it on the, put it on this one. Let's do like, let's add a new LFO. Let's like draw some stuff in here. So pads are fun because, yeah, you can just do like little subtle things like just messing with the form of the oscillators and get really cool results. And they're just trippy and ethereal and fun. Yeah, so that's the pad. All right, cool. So we made a cool little call bass. We made a pad. We made some keys. I think I accidentally deleted that track though. Anyway, let's make some Wubs, and we'll just keep using Vital because it's free and it's awesome. I love free stuff. So again, you're gonna catch this kind of the same formula for a lot of this stuff. Basic shape. That's your base, your base layer for your Wub. You need that. Next, this is one of my favorite ways to do it. Shout out to Bunting for showing me this one, the Harmonics series. So you can find a harmonic that you like. There's a couple different ways to do it. You can do it like this, and then have the volume determined by your LFO. That's one way to do it. Or you can do like some FM. And then let's remove this. Throw that on here. And now we have the... It's a pretty common shape. You see this a lot. So very simple. I mean, harmonic series, basic shapes, and then we'll go into some maybe some distortion. That sounds pretty cool. Some multi-band. I'm just kind of adjusting the release until I kind of hear the gritty kind of tone I want. You can do some chorus. Again, you don't want all that low end though. Turn the mix down a little bit. Just this is like the most basic wub, but at the same time, like this is super effective. So that's the formula. I just want to show you guys the sauce. Basic shape, harmonic series, awesome. You can mess with the filters again, like same stuff. Make sure you route it. Very important to route it. But yeah, mess with the filters. You can throw LFO on the filter too. Where's the yeah, there's a lot you can do. All kinds of different stuff. You just really got to experiment, but this is the basic formula for the basic wub. And you don't have to do it all weird like that too. That's that really long. Again, the envelope is where you're going to get the sounds you're looking for, depending on what you want. It's all about what you want. See how much of a difference? I mean, just moving this stuff around. You don't have to go crazy. This is just two oscillators, and I'm just moving the LFO around. Nice and fat. You can clean it up too. Let's do like a ladder, and we'll clean the low end up a little bit. We'll clean this up a little bit. there's a lot you can do. This is a super easy synth to use, I think, and there's all these effects are great. You can really get into it. But this is just a basic overview. All right, so we made the call bass. We made a cool pad. Made a wub. A weird wub. Anyway, I want to show you guys real quick. This is super easy because like I know some people aren't like dubstep people, but they want to learn how to make like crazy saws, super saws, whatever. So this is the easiest way to do it. Open Vital. You don't even have to change the wavetable. Just take this knob right here, turn it to 11. Now turn it to 12. Clean octave. Perfect super saw, right? I mean, and then you can go in and add some chorus to it if you want. Multiband. Maybe some distortion even. You know, you get the gist. Just go through, you know, have fun with it. But that's the basics. If you want to learn, you know, if you want to do something like that, if you're into that kind of jams, those kind of jams, super easy to do. Initial preset, turn that up. Yeah, you can mess with the release too if you know. That's sometimes fun to do. You just turn the release way up and mess around. So, yeah, that's that. All right, I just went through and saved all these presets, by the way, because this is some sauce. The call bass, I mean, the pad. You know what I'm saying? So this one, we can do actually some fun stuff with this. So the next thing I'm going to show you guys, and I will include this in the course materials because I use these all the time. We're going to go to the utilities audio effects racks. Remember how I was saying like how cool the audio effects racks are? So let's talk about the disperser first. Maybe this isn't the best sound to use it on. Let me change. Wait a second. Let's do this first. Let's do just basic vital. It is just going to be so much easier for me to show you guys what this does. So disperser, it just kind of I don't know how to describe it other than it disperses it messes around with the audio. And it's a very common sound that you're going to hear in a lot of EDM, especially like dubstep and stuff. This is huge. And if you actually look at what this is, it's like a ton of EQs. It's a chain of EQs. Like a ton of them. So this is one of those things that I don't fully understand what's going on, but I know that it has a cool effect on the sound. You can't deny that. And you can go ahead, you can add like a ton of them too. That's another thing that people be doing. So yeah, that's Disperser. Really cool. It just kind of makes your sound, I guess, like alien-y, if that's a real thing. So yeah, that's that. And then let's go back to that Wub again. We should add more dispersers to this. Where's it at? Let's do it. No, we shouldn't. Let's not use a disperser on this. Let's use OTT. Let's get into OTT. Let's get into Widener. Let's get into all this fun stuff. So yeah, that's what we started with. And then you add a little OTT, a little dispersion, a little widening, and you can make a really fat sound. So let's just go one by one through these and like look at what everything's doing. So we already talked about the disperser, but let's talk about OTT a little bit. So this is actually a really small amount of OTT on this, because you see what happens when you turn it up. It gets kind of like clogged and a little bit like messy. You don't want that. So just using a little bit of it though to bring out kind of the details and stuff goes a long way. And then we've already talked about saturation, but here it is again. Just using saturation now to bring up the signal, make it nice and fat. And notice that the bass, we're saturating the low end more than the high end. So this is what it sounds like if we saturate the high end. We're not doing that. We're making like a Wubs. Why would we do that? So let's saturate the low end a little bit more. Focus on the low end. So the next thing we're going to talk about is Wider. Now this is a free plugin, another freebie, and I highly recommend downloading it because it just makes the signal wider without like ruining the phase. So something that'll happen to you if you try to like make things wider using other plugins or even using like delay and stuff is your phase could get messed up. I don't know how they figured out how to do this. It's like another magic plugin that I don't fully understand, but they figured out a way that you can make the sound wider and the phase doesn't get messed up at all. So this is all the way 200% wide. This is like 100%. This is what we started off at, like 30. But if you listen to it without it, it's a very different sound, you know? It adds a lot. We can actually probably do like something like that. Sounds nice. And then here's our buddy GClip again from remember the mixing video? I showed you guys GClip. And we're just adding dB to GClip. Just fat. Just making our signal fat. We don't have to do that. We could probably turn it down a little bit. But you get the point. This is just volume and it's clipping at the top. So it's not gonna affect your master fader too much because it's being clipped at the top. And then here's our buddy OTT again, right at the end, to kind of, again, tame everything down and like bring out some details. And again, we're not using too much of it. Too much of it brings out all this weird high end. You don't want that. You want just a little bit of it to bring, because you want that detail. You want that like weird top end crunch, but you don't want like a ton of it. You just want like 30%, maybe even less, maybe like 20% of it. Just a little bit. Again, without it, it sounds fine too. But I think this just brings out a little bit of detail, extra detail, just a little bit. And then at the end, we're just G-clipping it again, just by a dB. This one's not that necessary, but it's a little bit.
You could probably get rid of this one. This is just a basic rack though that I saved because I noticed I kept kind of doing the same things. So I saved this rack, just like this drum fat chain, like just different racks. And then I've actually like bought a couple different racks. So like, you know, Jade Cicada, great producer, he's got all these racks that I use too. But this is just an example of what you can do. I mean, this is what this sounded like before. And now it's like a fully immersive kind of sound. Like that's what you can do with just a basic OTT disperser, saturator again. Now I showed you the wider plugin, which is super fun to use. Yeah, so that's all. So we made some really cool sounds today. And then I showed you guys how much you can change there's like a basic sound by adding like some effects, some dispersers, some OTT, some saturation, which we've talked about saturation. It feels like 3 or 4 times by now. But now we have some new tools like the wider. Done a lot of interesting stuff. Okay. So the main thing I wanted to talk about now is just loudness and understanding like how loud something should be, why is it, what volume, all that junk. So for that, I'm going to open up a plugin. Now you guys don't need to get this, but this is just going to help me show you guys what the loudness is here on this track. We're going to open up my Pro L. So let's just play it on the drop. So since we already have our limiter and everything set, and the limiter is already boosting like the right amount, you notice the Pro L is not doing any like gain reduction. We're basically, I just want you guys to pay attention to this section over here. Because this is going to tell you how loud your track is and all that nonsense. And LUFS is really what you want to look for. So this is actually like -12 is pretty low for a track like this, like for... But at the same time, see this -14 area right here? This is what the streaming services are. So you don't necessarily need to have like a super loud track, because if you do have a super loud track, you're going to get turned down to -14 anyway. So even our track it's not super loud, but it would get turned down to -14. So if you're wondering how do you get a super loud track, the best way to do that is to use saturation, and then to also mess again with the heads of all these, like the limiter and stuff like that. You can, crank it down as much as you can, and that will make your track louder if that's really like what you're after. But again, there's no point in doing that, because at the end of the day, you're going to get reduced. So we could do that on this track. We could go ahead. I think the first thing I'm seeing is these drums could come down. So if you do want to make your track louder, one thing you can do is and I'm just going to use this limiter just to show you guys, but you can do this with any limiter. Just crank it so you get about 10 dB of gain reduction. And then just turn the attack down until you kind of hear like the loss of impact, the loss of like the transient. And then do the same thing with the release. You turn the release down until you hear it get like really distorted and ugly. And then once you got it, you just turn it back down to about like -3 dB gain reduction. So right there, I just made our track like 2 dB or 2 LUF louder, just by doing a little bit of limiting on the back end. And I'm not necessarily saying go do this. Again, your stuff's going to get turned down to -14 anyway. But if you want. So the next thing I went to the drum and the bass and turned those down. So this is if you really want like a super loud song. You just go through like how I'm doing. Just kind of turn elements down. Using saturation helps too, because it, loudness has a lot to do with harmonics too. Like you could have, a really loud, I think this is probably, here, I'll show you guys. Just basic stuff real quick. Get our old friend Voxango. And then we'll use Vital again. Vital's been really useful today. Let's keep using it. We'll do a basic shape, sine wave. And so you're going to see. There's our sine wave. So at about 30 or whatever. We can keep turning this up. But really, because it's being limited, but the real volume though comes when you start adding harmonics. See? So harmonics mean volume. Just think about it like that. Like turning stuff up, the faders and stuff, that's not really the answer once you get to a certain extent. Like once you kind of set your basic mix and you want something maybe a little louder, maybe shoot for some saturation and you'll get that loudness without having to like turn it up in the mix. Because again, you don't want to turn stuff up too much. You don't want to like clip per se. But if you do what I do and you kind of set up your mix with all these limiters and or soft clipper or anything really, you can use the soft clipper, you can use the saturator even. Just put the saturator on all these, and as you keep adding stuff, it won't be a big deal. You'll just be pushing it into saturation or pushing it into a limiter. And that'll kind of, if you do it like that, you'll always be able to make your mix louder at the end. If you don't do it, if you just kind of go rogue, you can get away with it on Ableton because Ableton, you can just print to Ableton and it'll actually fix it, the clipping. But you might start to notice like stuff. So if you hear it, then you definitely need to turn it down. But if you don't hear it and it's clipping on the Ableton master, then you're probably okay. I can't say the same about other DAWs, but I know Ableton's kind of like, it's got that fail safe like that. But if you don't want to clip, if you want to do it like kind of, I guess the right way or the better way, I guess the better way would be to kind of set up these different groups using the Command G. You just start with your drums, then do drums and bass. Then you can do all the music together. And then I ended up making a sub mix, which is like for side chaining, so I could side chain some stuff. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. All right, guys. So that was week 5. We went over Vital. We went over some sound design with Operator. We went over some more audio effects, OTT, Disperser. We used the chorus. We did all kinds of stuff today. So this week's assignment, pretty straightforward. I just want you guys to make a unique sound using Vital, using Operator. You can use any of the things we went over today, any of the new tools we went over. I want to see that you guys were paying attention and that I want to see you guys kind of try your own. Maybe make a pad, make a call bass, you can make a wub, you can make a super saw, whatever you want. So it's an easy assignment just to kind of get you guys started on making your own sound. But also this week, I want you guys to start working on your final project, which is going to be due at the end of the 8 weeks. And that project, I just want you guys to make a 1.5 to 2 minute long little track. It can go a little over 2 minutes if necessary, but keep it around 2 minutes. And I just want you guys to, basically show me everything that you've learned, and maybe do some sound design, maybe make the pad, throw some drums in there, do a bass, show me that you guys can work on the track, or maybe it's just a loop. I don't know. Just all I want to see is that you guys are working on some music now that you guys have kind of been acclimated, now that you know how to use MIDI audio, you know how to mix a little bit, you know how to arrange a little bit, and now you know how to sound design. So show me what you got.